Together, they account for most of the global workforce. So what they think, believe, buy, and do, or don't do, is disrupting old norms and transforming society, which is perhaps fitting, because these generations have been shaped by disruption. Those born after 1983 have grown up in a world marked by continuous change and disruption. Constant change has created instability and uncertainty, both at home and at work. For many, it's all they've known.
The millennial generation is feeling uneasy about the future. From Industry 4.0 technologies such as robotics and artificial intelligence, they feel unprepared for Industry 4.0. Fewer than 4 in 10 millennials and 3 in 10 Gen Zers believe they have the tools necessary to succeed. They're looking to business to help them, especially to develop soft skills like creativity and interpersonal skills. The message is clear. Millennials and Gen Z are eager for business to make a positive impact in society and focus on employees' needs.
Billy Yen, its co-founder, spoke about the quality services the company offers and their mission to providing employment to talented developers. This led to the idea of investing in a program that concentrates on training the best of the best software engineers and developers in Tier 2 cities like Iloilo City.
I find it very unfair for developers. They are equally talented. But if you're born in a wrong city, you need to leave home and go work in Manila and separate from your parents, your brothers, sisters, and your family. I don't feel it's right. So what we do is, why don't we just bring employment directly to your hometown so you can build your professional career.
Through thorough search across the region, StackTrek has tested some 2,000 programmers last year and has found a high concentration of talents in the city.
What I meant by world-class, it means these developers are good enough to work for any tech companies around the world. We show our database to tech companies in France, in Hong Kong, in US, and we were able to use this data to attract one of the world's largest medical technology companies to skip Manila and Cebu and hire directly in Iloilo. Right now they're hiring 200 developers from us.
But to be ready for global employment, StackTrek made sure they're equipped with all the proper skill sets.
So guys, we showed you a video now. We can give you a copy later on of some parts of it. So to get the ball rolling, we'd just like to introduce who we are. So to start off, we have our CEO, Billy.
Sure. Hi. So I guess the easiest thing to start is we're just going to share how the whole thing gets started and why we're doing this and building this in the Philippines. So I've been in tech for my whole career, and I happen to have an okay successful career, and I earned some money. So a couple of years ago, I was in Tibet and Nepal, and I saw a lot of underprivileged young men and women, and like, what if I can use my money to do something? I want to get them jobs, and I chose programming because I know there are a lot of programming needs around the world, and I was like, what if we can transform millions of young men and women into programming workforce? It's going to help these companies, and it's going to get them a good career as well too, because programming jobs are middle class jobs. So I did some research, and I realized Philippines is the world's number 2 IT outsourcing destination behind India. So the world's 14% of the IT outsourcing work is done in this country. So I came here. I was like, oh, it's very easy. I just need to connect IT graduates in the Philippines with tech companies around the world. It's a simple matter of matching supply and demand. Very simple. So I came here. I connected some developers with some of my tech friends in the States. I think within 3 months, all of these 50 graduates, they got fired from different companies. So I'm a little bit curious why. I asked my friend. He said, "Oh, because the quality is not very good." And I found it a little bit strange. So then I start investigating. I knocked on around 200 school stores. Sat in their classes for 3 months. I went to Quiapo, Caloocan, all these places. one thing I realized is there's something wrong with the tech education quality here, especially with instructors' quality. Because the fact is, if you're a good programmer, you're not going to teach in Seattle. You're going to work in a tech company here for 5-6 times higher salary. So that means these kids, they're routinely taught by second-rated programmers that cannot get jobs in the industry. Right? So of course, then their quality is not good. Right? So that's a problem. And so that's how it gets started. But to be sure how the education quality here, we built an assessment tool that tests programmers' capability, so I can gather more data. So I started building a team. I started hiring programmers here to build a team so the team can build the assessment technology. For some reason, the best programmers that I interviewed in Manila, they all came from a place called Iloilo. So I was like, then why don't I just, I told these developers, then why don't I just go to your hometown and hire you guys? So I went to Iloilo, and we built assessment technology. The next step is we use that technology to test around. We test around 800 developers in Iloilo in a coding tournament. And we found some of the best programmers in Iloilo. Some of them are good enough to work for the CIA. Like that's the level that they are. And I asked these kids, especially the ones that are very, very good. I'm like, hey, what do you plan to do next after you graduate? They said they'll come to Manila to work because there are no tech employers. I find it a little bit weird. It's just because you're born in Iloilo. That's why you need to leave your home, leave your parents, and come here to work. So I told these kids, like, why don't I just bring tech employers directly to the city and employ you guys? So so I just share these data. So I continue to run, I think around 2 to 3 coding tournaments. Each coding tournament have around 1,000 to 1,500 participants. So we built around like 6,000, 7,000 people database. I share this database with tech companies around the world. And these guys, they said like they really want to hire. So they came, instead of Manila, Cebu, now they realize there are a lot of untapped tech talent in Iloilo. So they start setting up offices in Iloilo and hire them locally. And the next step, but Iloilo still suffer the same problem as Manila as well too. They don't have good programming instructors, a lot of schools. So there are some very good, but majority of them, they're below standard. So what we did, the next step is we developed a technology that can help, that can customize learning pathways to address our weaknesses as a programmer, so then you can become hireable. And that's the next step. So that's what we did, and we developed this technology, and then we share with schools in Iloilo. We integrated with the biggest schools like West Visayas, CPU, St. Augustine, those schools, and we see a substantial improvement in terms of quality. Within 6 to 8 weeks, the worst performing schools perform on par with UP students, just using our technology. So the next step is we're going to do the same thing here. So I treat Iloilo as a business case, and we're going to replicate what we did in Manila. And hopefully, eventually, next step is we're going to do it nationwide. So now we're launching in Manila. We're going to give out these free technologies to schools, because these technologies are designed for even your second-rated programming instructors. You can still deliver good education experience. And another reason why I believe it's important for us to improve IT education in the Philippines is because, again, I mentioned the fact earlier, Philippines is the world's #2 in IT outsourcing. But based on the data, only 10% of IT graduates are hireable in the Philippines. 9% fail. So I was like, well, if you guys can achieve the world's #2 with only realizing 10% of your potential, what if we can unlock the next 90% just by improving the education quality here? And so that's the reason why. And I think by doing so, Philippines can move into a developed status economy because probably jobs is a new middle class job. So the average salary is higher than doctors and lawyers here. So by creating a new middle class, I do believe that Philippines has a good chance to become a developed country. So that's why we focus on improving tech education. And we're going to we started in Iloilo as a business case, but now we're doing the real launch in Manila. There you go. And that's one thing. The second thing is we're going to continue our effort in terms of building these coding tournament as a platform for everybody have a fair shot of proving the world how good they are. So we've done in Iloilo, the largest is 1,500 people coding at the same time. Next step is we're going to do it here as well too. We're going to do it in Tactai here, and that's where Nigel is going to be.
Thanks, Bill. So as we shared with you our history there, it's all provided in the press packet as well. I bring here our country manager for the Philippines to speak more of our so-called business lines that addresses the vision and mission of our founder.
All right. So the story that Bill just told you, we have to put it in a bit more structure, right? How do we have the different tools now work together? And what we did in StackTrek really is follow the principle of educate, employ, and empower. And what it means is, and this is actually, really forgot to mention it, but that's your vision. It's educate to employment. He calls it E2E. Okay? So as he said, we have the tools in the universities for now. And when you are now becoming hireable, we can provide employment. That can't be now within the StackTrek world, or it could be any other tech company that's willing to hire you. And lastly, as he said, we want to also provide a platform for programmers, software developers, software engineers to actually show their skills. Where do you go today? If you're a good sports person, there's lots of events for you to show how good you are in basketball, there's how good you are in any of your sports. But what do developers do? They have no platform. Right? And that's where Stack Lead comes in, and Nigel will talk more about that later. That's really the way to improve how we actually provide a well-rounded community for developers. At the heart, Bill always says StackTrek is really about people analytics. And when we say people analytics, this is system-driven, system-analyzed. There's no human intervention anymore. So this is not a recruiter sitting in front of you and telling you, oh, what did you do in your job? How was your university life? How do I know you're really a good programmer? There's a software that's bias-free, and it will assess different levels across the spectrum of a good software developer. I think we have 8 categories that will be measured. And you may be very good at one, but you might not be good. And the system will tell you how to improve yourself. That's where StackTrek comes in. That's the underlying technology. I don't want to read it for you, but basically the idea is that the agenda that drives Bill and us now, that's why all of us joined, because to follow that vision that Bill has laid out is really, you come out of university, you have to be hireable, right? It doesn't help you that you pay, and it's not cheap in some parts of the country to pay for education, right? So we want you to come out and get a job, and you want you to get the job that's in the field that you're actually supposed to want to work in. There's no point in becoming a developer if you work in a non-development environment afterwards, right? It's kind of lost, and you could have just done a mass comm or a business graduate skill and end up in a BPO or something, right? Bring equality. So that's the equality is the biggest problem, and I had the same thing when I first came to the Philippines. How do I know when I hire somebody who's good or bad? Or just because I'm shy when I'm in an interview, I will not get a job. Right? This is taken out. The system is bias-free. If you have the result that say this is how I score on our system, you can prove that you have all the foundations of being a top 10% perfect programmer, right? The recognition, of course, I think is in a sense also, we don't want to displace the workforce, right? I mean, this is not a problem the Philippines faces alone. This is a global problem that urbanization pulls everything into the centers and it leaves the rural areas to their demise, right? And as Bill said, why are you here in the Philippines if, you know, we can do the same thing, and you know, and in tech jobs, it is not as location bound anymore as it is for other traditional industries, right? So this is in a way where StackTrek comes in, that we're also proving that providing jobs at the source is a viable business model, right? And of course we involve government, including schools, education, because it's in their interest, right? If we uplift the community, if we drive employment, then it drives economic power, that drives better living for everyone. Right? That's why we call ourselves a social enterprise. At the heart of it, we really want to have social impact here. Okay, as I said, StackEd is the free tool for universities. There's no fee. They can use that tool as they wish, right? Now, giving stuff away for free, there's a price somewhere. And as Bill was saying, he started sharing the skills sets with his global connections. And StackLab now proves that we actually can provide the environment to match global tech companies with the Philippine talent. And again, we're doing this at source. That's what StackLab really is. This is where we make our money that we can now fuel back into the engine of driving StackEd to become better. And we have a long-term vision on how we want to expand StackEd beyond just at the coding level, but the career level of a developer as they become longer. So they should stick with this not just during the university life or high school life, but also when they're in their career somewhere in a corporation that they're working for. Right? You should always be using this tool to continuously improve yourself as you go. Yeah. And the next part, the Stack League, the fun part actually, we have Nigel here, who is actually really running the whole thing, and he will tell you more about this empowerment part of StackTrek.
So hello, I hope you guys have been having a great lunch. So next bit, so we've been talking about StackTrek, StackEd, StackLab, about all these things that we're doing to educate, employ, and up to the point that we empower. So we're doing all of these to not only generate a way of creating a different platforms for these programmers to get educated, to get employed, but help them realize their skills. Through Stack League, we want to create the first and largest esports coding tournament in Manila. So as Bill was saying earlier, we started in Iloilo. The reason why we want to bring it to Manila is because we want to create this as the stepping point to be able to create that goal of going nationwide. So in Manila, we want to be able to create and provide equal opportunity for the developers to showcase their talents. This is not, so we're starting it here in Manila and going across to the different regions. And the beauty of Stack League, and not only that, but through what we're doing in StackTrek, is that there's no race, no gender, no hierarchy, only skills. Because as what they were discussing earlier, sometimes programmers, if they get interviewed, sometimes they might be shy. Sometimes they might be able to showcase their skills because, of course, their skills may come out in a different way, which is through coding, programming. So through Stack League, we want to be able to eliminate that portion where we can just see and watch their skills. And as Flo was mentioning, because of our technologies, we're able to do this bias-free. So these people will be able to code, compete, and connect. So what we want to do is that we want to invite all these different students, even non-professionals, professionals, to join the competition. So the competition, or our tournament, will be happening on August 3 to 4. So for this tournament, we are expecting 1,050 participants. So for these 1,050, we will have these different coders competing against one another. Why is that? Again, to showcase their skills. As Flo was mentioning earlier, we need a platform, a way for these coders to show how great they are. There is no PBA for these coders. There is no competitions for these coders, what they have is different platforms to perhaps practice online. So we are creating Stack League for these coders to be able to code, compete, and connect. So coding, so that they'll be able to showcase their skills in whatever programming language that they are comfortable with. And then why compete? Because for them to compete to one another is at least you'll be able to see how a coder will be able to improve against other coders. Last but not least, connect. As what Flo and Bill were mentioning earlier, the reason why we want to connect is because we want to help these Filipino programmers connect to global top tech companies. And not only that, because in a community, for people to improve, they need to be able to connect or collaborate with one another. So again, be having this on August 3 to 4 at our Stack League Arena, which will be actually at the trading floor upstairs. So thank you for that, and Bill, I believe, would like to add more.
Would you like to slide second slide? Our three way.
So actually, it's very simple for us. Internally, I call this more like a rebranding project of the Philippines. So we try to rebrand Philippines into a tech hub. So because, I mean, most people didn't know the tech potential of the Philippines. So that's what we want to do. And part of it is, the first thing first, of course, then we need to improve the education quality. That's the first thing. Second thing is, we need to attract more employers to employ Filipino developers. That's why we have Stack Lab. The last thing is the Stack League. It's about creating a platform for one reason is for the Philippine developers to showcase their skills to tech companies around the world. So that's the first thing. The second thing actually is, in order for us to build an ecosystem, we need to have role models. There are no Mark Zuckerberg in the Philippines. So we need to create these role models, these rockstar developers for the younger generation to look up to. And hopefully we can create a tournament, a platform that everybody have a chance to become that star, that community leaders that the younger generation can look up to. So together, these three brands form an ecosystem, and hopefully it's a foundation for us to help rebranding the Philippines. And that's the reason why we need to engage with the media community, because there's only so much we can do, and hopefully everybody can participate and help us share this message, not just in the country, but also people around the world as well.
Thank you. So as Bill was pointing out too, right? So as we build the name for the Philippines as the world's Detroit for technology and software development, we look to you, our friends in the media, to help us build the universe for developers, which is starting in the Philippines and can go global. The universe of which StackTrek is the universe for developers. So, yes, once again, thank you for coming. If you guys have any other follow-up questions, please finish your meal. We'll be here, and we can accommodate any questions or one-on-ones. Thank you so much. Any questions? We can do a Q&A if you guys are open.
Hi, I'm Lionel from Manila Bulletin. I was looking at your slides and you mentioned there's some sort of partnership or collaboration with the government. Can you expound on this aspect of your project here in the Philippines?
It's actually very simple. What we did is, again, one thing is we provide the tech, our technology to schools. That's one thing. The second thing is using our technology to run programming courses in schools. We can gather data about the capacity and capability of the programming students, which these are the data that government don't have. So what we did is we created this database, and we actually share this database with the government, so they actually know which are the higher and lower performing schools. And it's not just for the punishment or anything like that. It's more like we can actually help to mobilize the assets and the resources, see how they can, how we can actually match the lower performing schools, the challenging schools with the high performing schools, to share curriculums and all that kind of stuff to help improve the quality.
Are you currently working with specific agency in the government?
Currently, we are working with Iloilo government. Yeah, and then for now, that's the Iloilo government. But next step is we're also engaging with the Manila government right now as well too. So that would be the next step.
Good question. Any other follow-up thoughts or yes, sir?
Yeah, my question is, aside from the opportunity to connect, collaborate, and to showcase your talent and the bragging rights if you win the competition, how else are you motivating people to join the coding competition? How are you motivating them? Will there be a prize or a reward, or will you be getting them as part of your team, or will you be employing them?
Is that something you can answer, Flo or Nigel?
So again, like the purpose of the competition is to be able to showcase the talents, the skills of these different coders. But of course, what will be on everybody's minds, like what you asked, is that what happens after? So what we want to do is, after the competition, we will provide them with ways to be able to connect to global tech companies. So that's why we have StackLab. Another reason why we have StackEd is because, of course, if let's say a particular school wants their students to attend the competition and they want to find out if their own curriculum is able to stand up against other schools, we can provide a report after the competition to these schools and say, hey, your students are great at these different skills. Perhaps we could help you improve in this certain part of your curriculum so that you can help your students improve there. And then again, go through that whole process of learning together on how to improve that school's particular curriculum. Another thing, of course, for those winners, yes, there will be a prize. And that, however, will be a surprise. So for these top coders. Because of course, we're going to churn out of these 1,050 coders, there will only be top 3. So definitely these top 3 will be well deserving, not only to get prizes, but to be connected with these different companies.
So another thing to add on, like jobs and prizes, those are good things, those are tangible stuff. But another thing we want to provide is a platform for them to step up as a community leaders. So we provide them resources to make sure they'll be recognized nationwide. And hopefully, again, that's why we need the media community to work with us as well to help reward these young men and women who put in time and effort to master the skills. And we want to turn them into rock stars. And actually, media is the only guy. The community that can help us turn them into role models that people can look up to. And I do believe that from our experience, the best developers, they like to share their knowledge. They like to be recognized. And these are things that they cannot do by themselves. And hopefully, the platform that we created can help them achieve that goal.
So since I joined, I've talked to some of the people who've competed. And it's amazing how excited they are about this. You talk to any developer now here and tell them this is happening, they'll be like, where was this before? Why hasn't this been done before? It is something that's really speaks to the heart, that they find a place where they can actually, like a sports event, compete. Right? So the motivation, I think, is there. It's just there was no platform. Right? And yeah, that's why we're really pushing for this now, because they want it. And the success, I can tell you, we had everyone from the StackTrek team, they always join, even if they come in 150 in the list. They'll go and do it again. Why? You're not winning, but they enjoy it so much that they come back and want to do it, because it's really the only way to showcase this and compete. There's nothing else we can do otherwise.
Yes, sir. You had a question earlier. Friends at the back, do you have any other questions? Hey, please, please. Medyo may iksi yung...
Oh, yes, here? Okay. Marcus. Sir, two questions is the maximum number of participants that you'll be accepting, and second is there a limit on how many years does the tech-related student does have? Are you accepting a 2-year tech the course with 2 years or 4 years?
So to answer your first question, for our first Stack League tournament here in Manila, we will be having a max of 1,050 participants. So the reason for that is because we want to be able to at least limit in a way that there won't be too many coders at the same time doing the competition. But in the future, of course, we will be having bigger competitions because this will just be in Manila. Our plan is to have this nationwide. So there is actually no problem with us having more than 1,050. If we actually see that there is a possibility of, if there are a lot more people that want to compete, then we could actually adjust and include more participants. To answer your second question, for the limit of technologies, for that, anyone can join. So even if you're, let's say, no matter how experienced you are, you can actually join the competition. But with the data that Bill was saying earlier, like 10% are only hireable, 90% are unhireable, we could never know that person who could have 5 years of experience could be beaten by someone with 2 years of experience just because maybe that person has the skills to show for it. So that's why at the same time, we want to just invite any level of coder because at least those people will be able to showcase their skills